Here is the video for the review for the first test for Chapter 5. To start, we're going to make this table here for question 1. And on the test, yes, you do need to make the table. That is what a lot of the points are based on. So make sure you don't skip that step. So up here, we're just going to type that into the y equals part of your calculator. And I did that already. So for -5, I got -18, 0, 4. And let's just get this filled in. And then 24, 70, and 144. All right, so then we are going to graph some of those points. So they're not all going to fit, so let's just worry about the ones we can get on there. So -4, 0. -8. And then 2 is already at 24. And so we're only able to get these points on here. So I do like to kind of put the top and bottom on there. So less than -4, it was really low. So at -5, I'm just putting a point really low. And after 2, or at 2, it gets really high. So I'm just going to put a point really high for 2. And then I'm going to connect them in our curve. So just do the best you can. All right. And so then next we've got the end behavior. So right here, as x goes to -infinity, that is left, and as x goes to +infinity, that is right. So as we look at the graph here and we keep going left, the blue line is going down. So this is going to be -infinity. As we look to the right, it's going up. So this is going to be +infinity. Let's do that a little neater. There we go. The x-intercepts are any of the points that are on the x-axis, and they have 0 as their y value. So we've got -4, 0, -2, 0, and 1, 0. So there is the first question. Up next is just some matching. So we've got a graph with a bunch of points labeled. So those are all the turning points, all the x-intercepts, and all the y-intercept. There's only ever one y-intercept. So label the maximums. I've got B and F. Minimums, the lower points, D and H. And then this one has a lot of x-intercepts, so all the points on the x-axis here. So A, C, E, G, and I. The y-intercept is on the y-axis, and that's the same as one of our x-intercepts. It's at the origin, so point E. Determine the least degree the function could have. So to do that, you have to add up all maxes and mins. So there were 4 maxes and mins, 2 of each. And then you add 1. So adding 1 is just how you find the degree. So all the maxes and mins plus 1 is 5. So the least degree the function could have is 5. And then down at the bottom here, we've got more of the end behavior. So once again, negative is left, positive is right for the x's, and then we just have to look at what the graph is doing. So as we go left, the graph is going down, negative, As we go right, the graph is going up, so positive. All right, there's the first page of the test. Let's move on to the next one here. So question 3, as we were doing this in class, I can tell this is one of our more challenging problems we're going to have here. The first thing is looking at this cardboard piece. So the whole length of it is 14, but we cut off these little corners. So if we had 14, but we cut X off of each corner, well then the length of it over here, once it's all folded, is going to be 14 minus 2X. Same thing along the side. It was 8, but we cut off these little corners. So on the side over here, we're going to have 8 minus 2X. And then when we fold up, this right here, this X, becomes the height. So we've got a height of X. So we need those 3 measurements to find the volume, because the volume is the length times the width times the height. So I'm just going to multiply together these 3 things. So X times 14 minus 2X times 8 minus 2X. You do not have to do the work to sit and multiply that out. That's not what we're testing here. You can type that in your calculator just as it is. So in your calculator, using the y equals button, so the y equals button, type all this in. So I'm going to do that here on my calculator. So X times 14 minus 2X times 8 minus 2X. And then this one, I am going to look at kind of both the graph and the table. So when I first look at the graph on my calculator, I can't see much. If your window's in the regular 10 by 10, you probably just see a couple, like a line going up and a line coming down, and that's it. So I'm going to go to the table. And I see that I have a point at 280. So I know my maximum is going to be either at 80 or even a little bit above 80. So I'm going to change the window settings to have a max more than 80. So maybe 90, maybe 100, somewhere in there. Maybe even just 85, whatever you want. So let's say I'm going to do 90. Then I'm going to look at my graph again, and hopefully you can see the top of the curve. If you can't see the top of this curve, try again, go a little bit higher. So then after that, all I'm going to do is trace to where I think I'm at the highest point. So one of your buttons up at the top says trace. Just click that button and find the highest point. So I think the max is right at 83. So we're just estimating using the graph. I'm okay if you're a little bit off. I'm okay if you round. But just use your graph and look and find the highest point. The second part of the question is, what are the dimensions? So the dimensions use X. So when we're at the max, X equals about 1.6 or 1.64. I know I put on the answer key on Schoology. Once again, we're estimating, so I'm okay if your answer is a tiny bit off from mine. So we're going to take that 1.6 and plug it in for all of the x's we have over here. So the dimensions are going to be 1.6 by, and then I'm going to do 14 minus 2 times 1.6. I'm going to get 10.8. And then 8 minus 2 times 1.6. And I get 4.8. So those are the dimensions of the box once it's complete. And that's the box that has the highest volume possible. All right, the last little bit of the test here is with our adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing polynomials. So this one I do think is a little bit easier for most students from what I've seen over the last couple days. Let's get this zoomed in nicely here. So pay attention if you are adding or subtracting, or if there's nothing, you're multiplying. Expand also means multiply. So up here on number 4, I'm going to add these together. So I'm only going to add the like terms. So x cubed, and then here they're going to cancel out because I've got a positive and a negative. And then 8x and negative 3. On number 5, we need to distribute that negative to all these terms after. So I'm going to rewrite this one first. The first part, I am just going to rewrite, no changes. This next part, I am going to change the sign of each of these numbers. So the negative 2 became a positive 2x squared. The plus 5x becomes a minus 5x. And the minus 7 becomes a plus 7. So now I'm going to combine the like terms. X cubed, 2x squared and 2x squared become 4x squared. 3x minus 5x is negative 2x. And 4 plus 7 is positive 11. Excuse me. All right, so that's adding and subtracting. Down below here, we've got multiplying and dividing. So expand means multiply. So you can either distribute all these out, or you can make the box. I think the answer key I put on Schoology, I distributed it out. So here I'm going to do the box method. So x cubed, 2x squared, 3x, and 4. And then, x and negative 1. So multiply these together. I've got x to the 4th, 2x to the 3rd, 3x squared, 4x. And then negative 1, it's the same number. They're all just negative. Negative 2x squared, negative 3x, negative 4. So now the ones on the diagonals are like terms. So those ones are going to get combined. Plus x3 plus x squared plus x minus 4. All right. Number 7, we are doing our synthetic division. So to get that set up, we look at this number here on the bottom, and that's what's going to go on our box on the side, but we switch the sign. So instead of a minus 1, I'm going to have a positive 1. And then across the top, I look at all these numbers. So if we need to write a 1 in, write a 1 in, and then I've got 2, 3, 4. So all nice and in order here. Leave a little space, draw a line. This first one comes straight down. And then we're multiplying this number and the number in the box. So whatever your new number on the bottom is, multiplies by what's in the box to get what goes next. So 1 times 1 is 1. Add those together, and we get 3. 3 times 1 is 3. Add those together, we get 6. 6 times 1 is 6. Add those together, we get 10. Here it asks you what the remainder is. Well, the remainder is the number on the end, which I always separate with another little box. So you just need to say that the remainder, we need an n in here, is 10. All right, last one here is a lot like number 7. We're going to start with synthetic division, but then we're going to do some factoring. So in the box, we need to do -2, switch the sign. 1, -2, -5, +6. The 1 comes down. 1 times -2 is -2. Negative times negative is +8. And -6. So right here, whenever it says factor completely, you should know your remainder is going to be 0. It can't be anything else. If you are supposed to be factoring completely and you get a different remainder, double check your work. So now, using these numbers here, we need to put the x's back in. So up top we had x cubed. So when we're putting the x's back into our answer, we start with one less. So it's going to be x squared minus 4x plus 3. Now I want to factor this. I want two numbers that add to the middle and multiply to the end. So we want numbers that multiply to a +3 but add to a negative. So they're both going to have to be negative. So we're going to have -3, x minus 3, and -1. Then the last one, don't forget to write the factor they gave you as your last factor there. All right, that is everything.